welcome back to Making Better Bites. Your host Adrienne here with you for another episode today. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. My name is Adrienne, like I said, and I am a registered dietitian, and I specialize in women's health and hormones, specifically regarding also the menstrual cycle. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Being low progesterone is associated with menstrual cycle health, and I'm really excited to be talking about it because it's something that I personally experienced and struggled with a lot in my past and still focus my health and nutrition on today. So I kind of wanted to share that experience and some insight that I have about where your body is getting the progesterone from, how to naturally help support your body better to increase your levels, and all of those kind of things. Before I get into low progesterone today, though, I do want to issue a little bit of a clarification correction from last week's episode, specifically when I was talking about omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So I'm sorry that I didn't catch this in editing. I didn't notice it until I went back to make some clips for my social media account. But what had come up was I was talking about omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids and how omega-6s can be more inflammatory and how we need to increase our omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. And all of that is true. That's not where the correction needs to be made, but where my mistake was, when I was talking about increasing your omega-3s, I said that we need more omega-3s than omega-6s. In reality, we need to be eating more omega-3s because we're eating too many omega-6s, but actually the ratio of omega-3s and omega-6s, your body still requires a higher ratio of the omega-6s. In large quantities, omega-6 fatty acids are known to be inflammatory to our system, but they are still considered an essential fatty acid, which means we must get it from our diets. The problem is, so if you're looking at a ratio of omega-3s to omega-6, usually the omega-6 number is going to come first and the omega-3 number is going to come second. And the way they talk about it is that a good number would be 4 parts omega-6 fatty acids in your diet to 1 part omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. So like I said, the 6s are still higher, but the problem is that a standard American diet leads people to have 10 to 15 parts omega-6s to the 1 omega-3. So it's a very, very large imbalance. And so, we need to lower the 6s that we're increasing or that we're consuming, and we need to increase the omega-3s that we're eating. But we still need that balance to be higher on the 6 side. I know that there was some of the research that I was looking at, the numbers are a little bit not certain on like, is it really 4-1 or should it be closer to like 1-1 was recommended. I know the construction of our brain, it was talking about that it exists at a 2-1 ratio. So I think just getting close to that is what makes the most sense, to have healthy, balanced intake of the types of fatty acids that you're consuming. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify because I never want to share anything that is like technically incorrect, and I didn't want to cause any confusion for anybody who had listened to that episode. If you haven't listened yet, I would recommend going back and listening after this one, of course. But today we're going to talk about the low progesterone. So if that's something that you struggle with or you're curious about, then stay right here because we're getting to it. Before we do that, though, I still have one more thing, which is just my general disclaimer. This is not meant to be any kind of medical advice. Always meet with your trusted healthcare professionals and providers that know your health history and your health and can work with you one-on-one directly. I'm just here to give you the general information and maybe give you some advice or things you might want to bring up with your providers for a direction you might want to go. I am going to share my experience as well today, but with having low progesterone and kind of the route I took. But again, I am not intending this to be medical advice, prescriptive, or anything that anybody else should do. It's just my experience and then also sharing some education as well. So let's go ahead and get started then with the low progesterone. Starting off, let's kind of talk about the mechanics of progesterone and how our bodies make progesterone. So the biggest thing that we need with progesterone is that is in the second half of our cycle following ovulation. So if you have a 28-day cycle, right in the middle, ideally would be your ovulation expected around day 14. Don't take that as trusted factual information though, and like plan your life around it, because it's not. Everybody's life is different and your body's going to be different. But for ease of talking about it, that's what we're going to refer to as normal, is a 28-day cycle with a middle of your cycle being when you ovulate. So, yeah, the second half of your cycle, which is called your luteal phase after you ovulate, is going to have a really big peak in progesterone about halfway ish through it. And then as the luteal phase continues on, your progesterone will taper off. That is what they like to see. That would be a normal curve of progesterone. And that's when it's most important in your cycle, is going to be in that luteal phase. It's when it's the dominant hormone that we're looking at. So, with that being said, where does our progesterone come from, and why is it in that second phase that it's important? So, progesterone is important for mainly its purpose is to sustain a pregnancy. And the way that your body does that in the beginning, before things have fully developed and formed, and you've created your placenta and given your baby another source to live off of, the first progesterone that is going to be released for your body to make sure that you can sustain the pregnancy and the baby will remain attached is that that first progesterone will come directly from the follicle that your egg that became your baby was released from. And your body will do that no matter what, whether you have a pregnancy or you are fertile. It'll do that for the luteal phase regardless. So the follicle that releases the egg in your ovulation will then form something that's called the corpus luteum. And that corpus luteum is going to be your major producer of progesterone. And so it's very important that you, first of all, ovulate that cycle so that you can make the progesterone. And second, that you have a healthy egg and a healthy ovulation so that your body is more likely to make enough progesterone to sustain you for a healthy luteal phase. So typically, a healthy luteal phase is looking at least to be 10 days after you ovulate before your period starts again. If it's shorter than that, then it's an indicator of low progesterone. And that is because your progesterone is what's preventing your period to start, because it's waiting to see if you're going to become pregnant, which is why you have that big peak about a week after you ovulate, and then it will taper off. Once your progesterone tapers off, it is what signals your body that you are not pregnant, and therefore go ahead and shed the lining of your uterus, which brings on your period, as well as other like hormone indicators that will flip, because it's no longer focusing on preparing for fertilization of the egg, but it's preparing to shed and then continued development of a new egg for your next cycle. So that progesterone is very important in that second portion for all of those reasons. And that's why if your progesterone is low, like I said, it can be associated with a short luteal phase, because the progesterone is what's sustaining you from not getting your period any sooner than you already are. So from there, other signs and symptoms that you might be experiencing low progesterone besides just the shortened luteal phase would be lots of spotting before your period for like 2-3 days. A lot of times it's like a brown spotting is what you will experience, but it not necessarily. So spotting for days before your actual period starts. Also, there can be a lot of associated like anxiety, depression, PMS symptoms can go along with having low progesterone, as well as being fatigued, all of those sorts of things. So that's kind of your low progesterone signs, signals, indicators to look for if you are concerned about your progesterone levels, to then bring up with your doctor to kind of know where to go from there. So that's kind of what I experienced and how I got diagnosed, is because I had a short cycle overall. Like it was under 26 days. It was like 21 to 24 days typically. And I was having a lot of spotting. And so that's why my doctor started me on the progesterone, because they then tested my post ovulation progesterone levels, which I know every doctor is going to have a different protocol on testing your progesterone in your blood. So I know some doctors' offices don't test progesterone because they say that there's no point. I don't agree with that, but you have to be aware of your ovulation to even know whether your progesterone should be at a higher point or a lower point at any given time. So I guess that's why a lot of doctors say that there's no point, I think, because they don't expect a lot of their patients to be aware of their ovulation and know when they're ovulating to be able to pinpoint those times to then use the information of the progesterone. But if you have a lot of these signs, then it's likely that potentially you're suffering with low progesterone. And so you could still proceed with trying to be healthier and do these better options for yourself, even without the definite, because it's not like being healthier and more balanced and nutritious and living with your food and your lifestyle is ever going to be a bad thing, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I was experiencing, and my doctor had started me on medication. So the first thing that we did was like a cream that I would rub on my arms, and then when that wasn't working, she switched me over to a progesterone capsule, and then I started taking 2 capsules, and from there things were not improving for me. So then I started taking injections. So the injections probably gave me my best outcome, but after it's been a year since I've done it, but after I think it was like a year and a half to 2 years that I was doing them, I got tired of doing a shot into my stomach every cycle. So I kind of wanted to see what would happen if I had stopped, and to get a better understanding of what progesterone is and what my body was doing, and see if I couldn't support my body better and encourage my body to increase my progesterone on my own. So that's what I did. And like I said, this is not medical advice for you to stop your medication at all. It was just my experience and how I decided to go about things, not necessarily the right thing that you should be doing. So yeah, I had stopped, and I haven't had to go back on it, which I'm really grateful for. And I absolutely feel for anyone who has to take any kind of medication. I know there are plenty of illnesses and diseases and things that people are required to take medication for the rest of their lives. And it's not easy. And I totally feel for you and how difficult and exhausting that can be, because it's very tiring. But yeah, I stopped taking the injections and made some lifestyle changes, made some dietary changes, really focused on my health and understanding what was going on behind the progesterone and how our body makes it and what I could do for myself. So I also had a lot of negative side effects with being on the medications besides just having to do the injection. There were times where I experienced a lot of hot flashes, which I know can also be associated with low progesterone levels. But yeah, I was having hot flashes and trouble sleeping, lots of insomnia, a lot of anxiety with some of the medications when I had to use them. So it just wasn't a good place for me. And I wanted to see what would be on the other side of doing all of those things. And so that's what I did. And here I am now, and things have gotten better. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, that was kind of my experience with having low progesterone and kind of how all of all of those things happened. So yeah, that's kind of the mechanics behind progesterone and how your body makes it, what it's important for, and how to know if it's low or if things are normal or if you should be concerned. Next up, I'm gonna give you just 2 different things that you could do in order to improve your progesterone levels and what you could do about having low progesterone, some changes and ways you could support your body better. One of them is going to be lifestyle, and one of them is going to be a dietary change. So the first step with the lifestyle is going to be reducing stress in your life, because stress is not good. It's not good for your body. It can increase inflammation, which again, we were talking about last episode. But yeah, there's lots of different stress that can happen, and it's important to reduce the amount of stress you're having, because stress is part of your endocrine system, but can affect your endocrine system, which is your hormone system, by influencing your cortisol levels. Cortisol is your stress hormone and is released when you're experiencing stress in many given ways. And so we want to keep that as low and as normal as we can in order to support our bodies and our hormone cycles. An elevation in cortisol can influence your menstrual cycle by causing a cycle where you don't ovulate, which then obviously influences your progesterone directly. It also influences then all of your other hormones because you're not going through that same normal cycle that you typically would. So, it can then influence your period, make your period experience not as good. And then if you continue to have cycles where you're not ovulating, it becomes a longer term problem. So, yeah, we want to reduce the cortisol in our lives, in our systems, so that we're not affecting our ovulation. It's perfectly normal and fine for people or women to experience an anovulatory cycle where you don't ovulate, but it's normal maybe once or twice a year that would happen, especially in times of increased stress or changes in diet or exercise levels or what, you move, go on vacation, all sorts of things can influence it. It's normal to have, and it's okay to have a few anovulatory cycles, but for it to happen consistently and regularly in your life is where it becomes abnormal and would be a concern that you would want to influence. But some things that can help, with stress, a lot of stressors, of course, are mental and emotional in our lives, whether you have anxiety or depression, or if you just have you have little kids or a stressful relationship with a parent or a spouse, your partner, whatever the case may be, friendships, work, all of those kind of things, of course, create mental stress. But then there's also stress of having other disease or illness, loss of a family member, big life events that can be really difficult. So learning to manage your mental and emotional stress, easier said than done completely, but it is beneficial in helping, of course, your cortisol levels. And only you would really know how to manage that mental and emotional stress better for yourself. But there are other stressors on our bodies as well that we can have a little bit more influence over. That would be that I could actually talk about today that maybe aren't those mental and emotional, regular stress that is unique to each person. So some other things that could influence our body, of course, illness. So some illness we cannot control, but trying to keep your environment clean, your house clean, washing your hands is honestly our best defense against getting sick and reducing illness in our life. So just making sure that we have good hygiene, of course, can help reduce stress on our bodies. Dietarily, we can reduce stress by having nourishing foods and making sure that we're having a variety of foods and reducing the amount of inflammatory things in our diet, which again, if you want to hear more about that, that was what I talked about last episode, was inflammation. And then making sure that we're getting enough sleep is another thing that's really important on reducing stress on our bodies. Sleep is really important for rest and recovery, mentally, emotionally, and physically for our bodies as well. So it's really important that we are prioritizing our sleep majorly. I think it's really easy to push it aside and, you want to stay up later, or you're overwhelmed by the day and you're just not ready to go to bed yet, which I totally understand. But the better sleep routine you can get into and the more consistent you can be with your sleep, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better just off the bat. So some things that you can do to improve that, I've talked many times, but this is proven to help with our circadian rhythm and then also directly correlate to our cortisol levels. And that is getting exposure to outside light early in the morning, preferably before 10 a.m., but when the sun is still lower in the sky for your eyes to take that light in. That is directly, like I said, responds with our circadian rhythm, resetting it, making sure we're on a healthy cycle and having healthy cortisol levels. Because cortisol, while it's mostly talked about in a negative way, there is a good side to cortisol, and there is supposed to be an very early in the day release of an increase in cortisol that is a little bit higher than you would want to see it throughout the rest of the day. So by seeing the sunshine in the morning, you're getting that healthy, natural release of cortisol that your body is expected to have. So yeah, really working on focusing on your sleep and your sleep habits and how you can get more sleep. 7 to 9 hours, especially for women who are stressed and overwhelmed and have a lot of emotional stress or just physical stress throughout the day, aiming for closer to that 9 hours of sleep if you can. Again, I know that's easier said than done for a lot of people that have a lot of things going on, but um, it's really important for your hormone health and for your overall well-being. So if you, in an ideal world, you would be getting enough sleep. Um, but yeah, prioritizing like just going to bed and waking up at the same time and getting outside, seeing more sunshine, and also going outside throughout the day and in the evening helps a lot as well with reducing your cortisol and helping improve your sleep habits. I think I've talked before about like it's called grounding, where you go outside and you stand barefoot like in the grass if you can, just being like grounded to nature and not having any distractions, on your phone, and just looking around and calming your mind. That it's proven also to reduce stress. So that's another like thing that's a little bit easier for people to do. Obviously not as easy if you live in an apartment or don't have access to like a grassy area, but I don't know. I there's everybody has different situations, so I'm just trying to give advice on areas that you could do something. So I apologize if it does. I know it's not going to work for everyone in every situation. So there's all of those things that you can do to reduce stress around sleep. Another big stressor for people can be over exercising. So if you are pushing your body significantly in the gym, spending a lot of time doing cardio or overworking yourself with the weights, where your body isn't able to find time to recover and recuperate, that can cause a lot of stress on your body as well, because you're also creating a lot of inflammation in your system. Um, so you need to just being aware of that and how exercise can be a stressor. So, I guess a big thing, if you work out regularly, I think it's easier for you to recognize if you are pushing yourself too hard or not. But if you are trying to get into exercise new and it's new to you, just not allowing yourself to go 0 to 60 and taking your time, slowly building it up as a habit and doing things that you aren't feeling so completely worn down and having no energy whatsoever remaining after you participate in them. So just really listening to your body and how you're feeling and how much rest and recovery is required. So if one workout wipes you out for like 5 days and you're not able to do anything else, that would be a sign that you're pushing it too hard and to scale it back. So that's why it's really great to start with things like walking or power walking, um, weightlifting, but maybe just like 30 minutes, no more than that, when you're first starting out, and just a few days a week, and then building up that habit as your body adjusts. And also making sure that you are getting enough food throughout the day. I know that's another major stressor on our bodies, especially as women. I think we're taught to eat small portions and that we shouldn't be eating too much food, and people get really worried about the amount that they're eating. But if you're not feeding yourself enough, you're causing your body more harm than good as well. So it's like, even if you're not intending to be in a constant state of dieting, that's how your body is reacting to it, is that you're in a constant state of starvation. So just making sure that you're eating enough as well, because that can cause stress on our bodies, increase our cortisol, increase our inflammation, and then decrease our hormone production. So those are just some things that you can do, stress areas that might be influencing your life. Just picking, like one of them and getting started, because it's really hard to reduce stress, but it's really important for your overall health and your body's well-being. And then the second thing that I was going to recommend, which I said was dietary, is increasing the antioxidants in your diet. So, antioxidants are important because they help protect your body from inflammation, cellular damage that's negative, and like having oxidative stress, and protects from, like I said, damage that is going on in your body naturally. So, increasing your antioxidants in your diet is going to then also help specifically protect your follicles and to protect your egg health, which, like we talked about in the beginning, having healthy ovulation, having a healthy egg, having a healthy follicle is all important in having healthy progesterone levels and a good ovulation. So making sure you're getting enough antioxidants to protect those organs is something that you can do as well. So there's lots of different antioxidants. Some are vitamins, some are phytonutrients, some are minerals. Lots of different ways you can get them in your diet, but some big ones like vitamin C, vitamin E. I'm trying to think. The one that I had written down was CoQ10, like coenzyme Q10, or it's often written out CoQ10. I know it's become more popular lately in people's diets. It's also a really powerful antioxidant that can help prevent stress on your body. And then, what was I going to say? Oh, selenium, which I talk about a lot as well, is a really important antioxidant for your egg health, your thyroid health. It creates what's called a selenoprotein, and it can help protect your menstrual cycle and your hormone cycles as well. So really good places that you can get antioxidants. We talk a lot. Well, with vitamin C is, of course, citrus, oranges, lemons, limes, grape juice, like kids' juices. That's often why they're recommended for kids, is because they need vitamin C, which, side note, kids don't need any more than a maximum of 4 ounces of juice, even 100% juice a day. So that's back from when I used to work at WIC and talked about kids and prenatal nutrition all the time. But yeah, so juice can be very limited, even though it is a good source of vitamin C technically. Anyways, so you can get it from all of those things. You can get it from eating any fruits like grapes, strawberries, just berries in general, blueberries, raspberries, whatever. All of those things have vitamin C in them. Also, though, some vegetables contain vitamin C, like bell peppers are a really great source of vitamin C. That is a vegetable as well. So it doesn't just have to be fruit. For the few people out there who don't like to eat fruit, you can also choose it from vegetables. Vitamin E is really prevalent in like nuts and seeds are really great sources. So almonds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, all of those things are going to be a good source of antioxidants. And then selenium, I talk a lot about, is in Brazil nuts, is a really good source. Also in shellfish. I think it's also present in dairy products, if I remember correctly. And yeah, so those are good ways to get those antioxidants. And then for the CoQ10, the best source is organ meat. So maybe that's why people don't get it as much anymore, because not a lot of people eat organ meats anymore. But that's a good source if that's something you're interested in. Fatty fish like sardines, mackerel, were all listed as good sources, but also just like beef was a good source of the CoQ10, as well as soybeans. So tofu, edamame, soy milk, those kind of things are good places where you could increase that specific antioxidant if that's something that interests you. So yeah, I think that kind of is all of the different things I wanted to cover with going over my experience, of course, with having low progesterone, kind of some signs and symptoms that you can look out for with low progesterone. And then hopefully you kind of understand the mechanics a little bit better and why changing your lifestyle and nutrition could improve your progesterone levels, because it's all about that healthy ovulation and having a good ovulatory cycle and having a healthy corpus luteum developed following that ovulation. So we talked about the importance of reducing stress, some areas in your life that you could reduce stress or might be causing you stress that you don't recognize or don't realize how important they are. And then also how important it is to make sure you're getting a variety of antioxidants regularly in your diet, and how those things can help protect against inflammation and damage in your body. Specifically, of course, here talking about your egg health, but overall, it's going to be good for you no matter what, whether you ovulate or not, whether you're someone who has a menstrual cycle or not. It's going to be important for your system. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, it always means so much to me. If you can share this episode with family or friends who you think might benefit from listening to it, or share it on your social media just in general. If you can leave a rating or review, that's how the platforms know that people are interested in listening to my episodes and are enjoying them, and then are more likely to recommend them to other people. I heard someone say once, it's kind of like leaving your waiter a tip, like so they know you did a good job. It's leaving me a tip as a podcaster, and it's actually completely free. So I really appreciate that. It helps me out a lot. And then, yeah, I think that's it. You can find me also on social media, of course. I'll link my Instagram and my newsletter below. I'm also on TikTok. As long as TikTok keeps existing, I will keep being there. And I think that's all I have for you today. So I hope you have a great week, and I hope that this helps you to make better bites.